Back here with our V6 1994 Toyota Camry 1ZMB something whatever FE V6 200 horsepower V6. Now we're back with the compressor, the AC compressor. We're having a problem with a leak on the compressor. All components on the vehicle are new. Even this compressor was a new compressor, or a reman. And we just got our new gaskets in the mail, which is by Select. They don't like the fact that it's made in China, but you know, hey, what you gonna do? So we got our gasket set here. And we pulled our old gasket out, and we were leaking off the sides of both, all the way around our base. It took about 3 months for this compressor to leak, and this was our old gasket. We just pulled it out. Careful not to contaminate it here. Put it to the side. So we got our new gasket here. Let's see if we get any more of a. Let me try to take some of this here. Use some of this on here. Alright, let's see. I'm trying not to contaminate this compressor too much. I'm going to suck this down with a vacuum pump when I'm done. So
gasket's fatter.
Well, see, I don't really like the black gaskets. Yeah, when I pulled that black gasket out, it was completely flat. I mean, it looked like they reused the same gasket.
It would make sense if it was leaking all the way around.
But it looks like they reused the same gasket. See, it looks like they may have rebuilt this compressor, the basics in it, and they left this plate on. Or they just used a really poor gasket from the factory. I don't know who that was online, but this compressor was about 99 bucks with snail shipping.
It was $89, I remember.
Was this 89 on eBay?
Yes, it was. $89, and it was from a good feedback seller.
Alright, well, it worked. Problem was, this is where our leak was. You can see the dial down the side where it leaked. And it kind of threw us for a loop that maybe it was leaking in between the compartments of the compressor where it comes apart. But no, we actually tested this. We put more Freon in it after it leaked down, and we actually monitored it. We sprayed it with a soapy water. We used the UV dye. We did all that nonsense. Okay. So what we're going to do, put this back together.
6mm hex or Allen.
Or a T40 Allen. Torx.
Star bit, as they call it in foreign countries.
Torx. It's an appropriate name. Now, because we didn't have the 6mm, like I said, and the Allen, the Star works just as good. If you get a good fitting Star, so. Or hex, or Torx. Okay. Each pound is about 50 foot-pounds of this big old ginormous Milwaukee here impact. Plus you subtract a little bit for the extensions that give. The important part is to get it on without over tightening it, stripping it, and smashing that gasket equally all the way around. Well, it looks like we got a good gasket this time, and we're crushed pretty evenly all the way around. And you can see a little oil come out from where it crushed here.
It leaked a whole lot of Freon.
Well, it leaked all the Freon out.
Pretty much the whole system.
So much so that the Freon oil actually took the cheap paint that they used to paint on this compressor off. So there's a gray paint coming off on here.
Thought I saw some gray fleck on my hands.
Yeah, well that's just the cheap paint that they use, the aluminum colored paint. Instead of sandblasting this alternator down, this compressor down and leaving it, they said we're gonna throw some cheap spray paint on it and let it sit in the warehouse until somebody buys it. And we're the suckers who bought it, so here we are. So we put that back together. Looks like this goes here. This plugs in here. This is for the AC clutch positive, right here. And the other one's a ground or some type of sensor at the bottom of the compressor. Maybe it's a high pressure sensor of some kind. Keep the compressor from burning up. Maybe it's a compressor disconnect when you throttle up. Maybe it kicks the compressor off when you stomp the gas pedal. I don't know. I'm not trying to figure that part out. We're just showing you what it's like to take an aftermarket compressor that was rebuilt and change the gasket where they had a problem.
Also let people know if you do get a leak and it happens to be around the same area, then you might not have to buy another $90 compressor online or $100 compressor at the auto parts store.
That's another thing to be careful of too. When you get your new compressor, sometimes it may or may not come with this compartment right here. It might come with a block-off plate. You won't get this compartment for your two lines here, your in and your out, for your compressor. And if you're an idiot like I am and you threw your old compressor away or turned it into the salvage yard for junk, you got rid of this top part. And when you buy other compressors, you might not get this top part on it. So save this top part if you ever replace your compressor, just in case. Alright, so we're ready to go back on the vehicle. And we have some O-rings here that are pretty much useless. We'll use them for other things in the future. I'm a firm believer if an O-ring is not leaking, do not replace it. I know people say go and replace all your O-rings and stuff. It's not always a good idea, because you get aftermarket O-rings, they're junk. You got an O-ring like this that's junk. I don't know if you'd call this an O-ring or a gasket.
I think they call it a
but
gasket.
It's hard. It's not as soft as the others. Now, that could be from heat, or that could be because this is old, or just the material that it's made out of. I don't know if it's supposed to. I think that's supposed to be some kind of neoprene rubber. But anyway, this is your compressor part. Back number.
P310.
Yeah. And that's, P310 is the face of it. Imagine if you get a new compressor, it should come with this, but don't count on it. Because there's a lot online that do not come with this.
Alright, let's get this thing back on.
So you go back down, get it back down inside the spot. Careful not to get any contaminants inside the lines. And we do have a vacuum pump, so we are good with that. See how we got some dirt right here? That will fall inside your compressor. Alright. Okay. Compressors in. Spot. We have this line right here we gotta watch out for. Push that back over here. Out of the way. Now what do you have here?
I got the right side. The driver's side.
Top?
Yep.
Okay, I don't want to put that one on yet. I want to put the back bolt in right here first.
Back one, isn't that the big long one?
No, that's the bottom.
Oh.
Okay. First thing I want to do is get myself started right here. As you can see, once this is on, it's almost impossible for you to take off this top plate. or tighten it up.
Yeah.
We tried with an Allen. We just couldn't get it done. These bolt sizes are
The 12 with a deep wall because they're on the stud.
right. Okay. Now here's a funny thing. The alternator bracket. This is part compressor, part alternator. It's funny because this part sits on the compressor without a shim. This part sits on top of a bolt with a nut like this in the compressor. Goes in like that. Now the problem is you got these two studs right here on the side. Bring it over here. You can see these two studs line up, and this wire of course goes on the outside, and it was meant to have these clips that hold the wire here for this little cheap shield that we loosened. Now here's what we want to try to do. We want to try to get this bracket lined up and see if we can't put the bolt in and the bracket on at the same time or close to it. Lift your compressor, get your bolt started. Okay, what do we need for this? 10 mil?
10 mil. I think it was 12 mil for these lines to go on. They were big head.
Alright. Alright, here's your bottom bolt. Now you're supposed to have 3 bolts. Now on this particular engine, the bottom bolt was already missing.
4 bolts, yeah, we were
It
missing.
had 4, and this car has been running 3 bolts and it's been doing fine. So that bottom bolt
Right there.
on the other side is always it's always been missing. So we only have these 3, and that's what we've been using, and we've been fine, and we've had no problems, no vibrations, no nothing. So I wouldn't try to do this with anything less than that. So I guess what we need to do is either remove one of these studs here with a Torx head, or bend the bracket on the way that I did before and get it off. You slightly bend the bracket over and put it on. So what was this, 10?
12.
12s? 12 mil?
Yep, those were 12s.
Okay.
There's a deep wall.
Be careful when you tighten this thing, not to snap anything. Alright. Now what's on the bottom here? Okay, I see.
Those are the 12 with the...
Alright, now
Small.
here's the problem. I gotta get this over. Move this out of the way. Okay, now that I have that on, which is ridiculous, I have to stretch this up over and put it on. Like that. Of course, I could have taken, look, see how I got that on? I pried it on. Now, I didn't have to take any of those Torx studs out. See that a nut goes on there, which is a 14 mil nut. 2 of them on this side of the bracket. Come show. Come see. I don't need a socket yet. See? 2 14 mil nuts, and then a 10 mil to tighten this stupid piece of sheet metal up.
A shield.
It's not really a shield, it's a hold down plate for this wire right here that runs, I think, to the alternator. It's supposed to have those 2 plastic clips and go like that to keep it out of the belt. We never had it. I mean, this is 94. The thing has rotted off. This is your nut for your compressor stud to hold your alternator bracket down. There like that. Before you tighten anything up, get everything started. Even though I tightened up the first 2 at the top, I didn't have a choice with this one because I can't go back and tighten it up. See, bolts right here. Goes in there, just tighten it up. These are self-starting bolts, kind of. They have like a head, a guide on them to self-start. What was that bolt at the bottom?
12.
So
Might be able to get it with deep, if not, small extension is needed with a shallow socket.
this one's already tight. Now we tighten this up. This is your alternator bracket. Alright. It's about 40, 50 foot-pounds. Let me see the 14 mil socket, shallow. You put your alternator bracket tight, put it back. Get the 10 mil ready. Let's throw the 10 mil on this for the shield. Alright.
10mm socket, the socket that everybody loses.
Well, everybody should have about 4 or 5. That'd be alright.
Everybody that works on anything import should have a 10mm socket.
Well, that's actually, now that's any vehicle.
The most useful
Now
socket.
American is all metric too.
The most useful socket in the toolbox.
American vehicles went to the metric system, so we're all in a metric system. We're all engulfed into the international bullshit metric system. Military went to what? Instead of yards, they went to what? Kilometers? Meters?
Meters and kilometers.
That's what I thought, see?
They don't use yards anymore.
Take it easy on the 10 mil. Yeah, what happened in World War II, huh? Oh, I know, that's right. We created the United Nations right after World War II. That's what happened. That's why we're all using European international shit. Alright, now.
We have our AC connector right there.
Yeah, where's our AC wire?
Oh, right there.
That's it. Alright, so that jumps around and connects down to your AC. Alright, but before that, we have...
Our lines, right?
Right.
That's
So,
12mm.
look, here's our one line. And it's got a factory black O-ring on it. Gee, that kind of tells me that O-ring, that plate was factory. And even though that compressor said it was rebuilt, they didn't actually use
New O-rings, no.
a new O-ring. Well, sometimes you have to fix other people's mistakes, even if you already paid for it.
Both bolts are the same.
Alright, so that's that one. Check this one, see if there's any dirt on there. No, that O-ring looks pretty good. Okay, Sean? Let me see. Where does this one go?
Straight in. There you go.
Right there?
Yep.
Okay, so rock that in.
Oh.
And what is this, 10 mil?
12.
12. Okay. So there's our lines. Okay, so we should suck this down since we only had it apart a brief moment. Pretty much almost as long as the recording. I know I had it out already, but it only took this long to get it out.
So we had apart about 25 minutes.
Alright, so we got some moisture in the system because we had these lines open, so we're going to have to suck that moisture out. Even though most moisture will burn out.
12 millisecond.
So, it's still going to take about 30 minutes to, shit. 30 minutes to shit.
Yeah. You can say that on
To
YouTube.
suck the moisture out. Right, okay. So you want to get that a little snug. Not too much because it's screwing with aluminum.
That one you might need an extension for.
Why didn't you prep it, son?
Oh, here.
Alright. Alright. Okay, snug and snug. What the hell was that? Alright. Okay. Now, where's the lid top for this? Okay, got it. Washer fluid.
Now we have our electrical connector.
Right.
Right in here, I think, right?
Yeah, but Alright, here's our connector. 3-prong connector, even though it shows 4 prongs, it's only utilizing 3. One's for the clutch power, and the other 2 probably feed back to some kind of disconnect at the bottom of the compressor, like a pressure overload switch or something. Like I said, I don't really know for sure, but that's what I think.
If you don't have an ABS module there, you should be able to take your alternator and set it on the side.
Right. So, get your alternator lined up on your bracket here. Now, okay, before you do anything else,
We got one more thing here. Remember that fork.
You have your alternator fork here, bracket. Your alternator fork bracket goes over this wire, which is fun. No big deal. Put that on, put your nut on for that fork. Just tighten it down, finger tight. Then take your alternator pin or your alternator bolt, put it through the block, or the engine head here, or the bracket, I'm sorry. Get started. While we're on this subject here of this, and y'all are watching me wasting my time, y'all are wasting your time watching this assembly or reinstallation. I can tell you a little bit about Toyota's funny alternator, at least the Camry I've noticed.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
Threw us for a month loop. One whole month it threw us for a loop.
Yeah. We found out that, at least not this model, doesn't like to run without a battery connected. In other words, the alternator really doesn't pull its own weight for this vehicle. So it will run for a very short while, and then it will kill.
That's with all accessories off, it will run. Barely.
Right, but with the accessories on, it will draw down this alternator. But for some reason, with a good battery and a good alternator, it keeps the vehicle charged. But Toyota is definitely dependent upon an alternator. A battery. A good battery. So, I've been to many testing machines where auto parts have stuck their machines on these Toyotas, at least this car, and they've said battery's bad, alternator's bad, battery's bad. I could disconnect a negative or positive terminal, the car will kill after about 2 or 3 minutes, depending on whether the AC's on or some load. If the AC's on, it'll kill within a minute, which is, everybody knows that's abnormal for, an old school mechanic, but Toyota mechanics probably already know this. The reason I think all this exists is because Toyota's...
Let's tighten this down first, that nut right
Yeah,
there.
I was going to do that. I was just going to put this belt in its place. Toyota's don't, Toyota's charging systems are different than what we're used to. These are obviously one of the vehicles they say do not disconnect your battery or your battery for any length of time, and don't give jumps and stuff like that because you will damage the car's electrical system. Well, it's because Toyota, I think, barely puts out enough, their alternators barely put out enough amperage at an idle to keep these engines running. I notice the alternators are not excited until about 1500 RPMs. And these cars were meant to idle at 700, which is really weird. Well, anyway, I found a solution to it to make the car idle without a battery and all that stuff, but I decided not to mess with the factory, the way that the car is done from the factory. I've decided not to screw with it. But I bought an upsize pulley, and they sell them for these alternators on eBay. You can find one that it's upsized just a little bit.
Is it upsize or downsized?
Well, I'm sorry, downsized. So it downsizes this pulley, so at an idle, it essentially spins the alternator a couple of RPMs faster, a couple of 100 RPMs faster. So the alternator's tricked into believing that it's spinning at 1500 RPMs while it's idling at 700. But you know, as everybody knows, if they've ever messed around with some mild street hot rods and stuff, downsizing, upsizing pulleys and messing with pulleys messes with horsepower. So you can get the the downsized pulley, and have your alternator spin faster, your stock alternator. And this would apply to mostly probably young kids that want to do big stereo systems and run amplifiers and things that draw a lot of amperage from your battery. I know you probably got online and looked for 100 amp alternators and stuff. And
they actually sell 200 amp alternators for this thing. It's insane.
They do, but I don't expect that they would last very long, but I could be wrong. Plus they would probably mess with the vehicle. So if I was you, I would consider, if you're having a problem where you need to have more amperage out of your alternator at an idle, I would suggest get one of those downsized pulleys. And I found them on eBay and I actually bought one, so I have one in my little stash. It's nice billet looking aluminum, and it presses on and then bolts onto the bolt after. So let me get this little alternator block in. Can't see. Alright, so what we got here is an alternator that isn't up to the right height. Let's see. Anyway, so that's that. I thought that was pretty funny that Toyota has this kind of system, and it throws off the auto mechanic scan tools that they use to test the alternators and the batteries out in the parking lot while the vehicles are running. Almost every time you test this car, they say that it's a alternator failure.
But then they bring the alternator inside and it's running fine.
Yeah, they test it on the machine inside and everything is fine. So you be the judge of that. So don't be fooled.
Without the extension.
Oh, that's right. Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so don't be fooled if you go have your vehicle tested and they tell you your alternator's not performing. Take it off the car, bring it in, and it is performing. Now you know the reason why. I guess Toyota just has it just in the right spot where it's just enough amperage not to overcharge the battery, but keep the vehicle charged. So anybody putting aftermarket headlights in, all that other shit, you're going to have to downsize the pulley or get a bigger alternator, bigger amperage. And I've only really seen 200 amp alternators from specialty shops, from sound shops and stuff like that. And I don't really want to put that in this vehicle. So forget running high wattage fog lights and all that. I'm going to stick with the factory deal.
Why would you want high voltage fog lights on?
I don't know.
On a Camry.
It's trendy shit. All of that's trendy shit, from bass to whatever. Did I just put this on backwards?
I don't think so.
Yes, I did. You didn't remind me, man.
We'll just cut that part out of the video.
Fine.
And then leave it in on purpose.
Alright, fine. Okay, so this little block here, it's important to make sure that your tightening bolt right here is, your tensioner bolt here is, your block is spun the right way. See, my block is backwards. I need to take it off and turn it around that way, so the bolt tilts and stays with the bracket.
Alright.
Alright, so we got our bracket tight here. Not this, we didn't tighten that yet, but we're going to tighten our belt. See where we are? Okay, we're getting there. Showing it down here? Okay. I'm about at the corrosion where it was before on the bolt. And that's tight enough for me. I can press it a little bit. Guys, please remember, this gets a little bit tighter when you tighten everything up, so your belt will get tighter. Plus also keep in mind that you're fixing to put some stress on the belt. You turn your compressor on and all accessories. it means alternator's going to want to bog. Compressor's going to want to bog. So see, my belt even got tighter when I did that. But that's good.
Alright, so that tight.
This vehicle does not have a spring-loaded tensioner, so you have to pretty much tighten your own belts the way that you feel necessary. Okay.
It's tight too.
Alright, so we got that. Got the tensioner tight. Got everything tight. Lines. We got our AC plugged in, right?
Yes.
Alright. Wires out of the way. Nothing's going to get in the belt. This wire is behind the bracket. That's good.
Hey, cut it.
This shit's out of the way. What?
It's about to cut the video.
Well, okay, let me turn on the vacuum pump and get that going. Suck this thing down. See if it holds a vacuum after a few minutes. Then continue and complete the process. So you can tell it's starting to suck the moisture out of the system. You can pick these vacuum pumps up for a couple $100.
Harbor Freight.
I wouldn't pick that shit up at Harbor Freight. You could pick it up somewhere else.
The junkyard, maybe.
What?
The junkyard better than Harbor Freight.
I'm sorry. Unless you find a tool van that's empty, you're not going to find a vacuum pump, anybody. Back in the day, these things used to be $400 and $500. I guess the cream ones, they still are. This is a cheaper one, but it does the job. And right here is where your moisture's coming out. Out of the handle.
Yeah.
And it's plugged in to your regular,
Your low side.
your low side charge port.
Way down there.
I'm sucking moisture out of the system right now. And we'll have this thing up and charged in a few minutes. We'll get back. Alright, we're here again with the vacuum pump's been running for a little while now. About 15 minutes. We've decided that's probably enough to suck most of the moisture out of the system. We only had it open for a short time. The humidity's not too bad today. So what we're going to do is we're going to kill this thing. I'm going to put some Freon in it. Now, my off button. Shit. Let me turn it back on and then disconnect it while it's on.
I can hear it.
Yeah,
Sucking.
I do too. I wonder why.
Isn't that weird?
So it's sucking moisture back in the system? Or the valve is stuck? It's possible that this valve was stuck in a depressed situation. Tell you what I better do. I better stick this vacuum pump back on and get back with you guys. See that smoke? A little bit of, it's not smoke, it's moisture. You can see that moisture coming out as a steam. So we're getting the rest of the moisture back out. It seems like our valve was stuck in the open position from this blue vacuum that we put on it. So we're going to try it again. Alright, let's see the rest of it. Hold on. Alright, light.
I have it started right now. So we took off the vacuum pump. We put the Freon connector on as soon as we turned the vacuum pump off.
Okay,
And disconnected it.
so we're going to put some Freon in before we start the engine. Now you're supposed to shake the can back and forth and do all this bullshit. Look, however you can get the Freon in, get it in. Okay, move our vacuum pump out of the way. And all you need is a simple gauge and hose system like this. When you start to feel the valve freeze up like this, you can back off of it and back the valve off so you're not letting so much in at one time. Because you don't want to freeze the line as it's going in too much. Now, a note to how much Freon this vehicle takes. 93 and below is R12. That doesn't apply to this. 94 to 96, it takes about 30 ounces of Freon. It's 12, 12, 24, plus another half can.
So it's 2.5 cans exactly.
Roughly, yeah. 2.5 cans. I would put 2 1/4 and then start from there. You want your gauge in between here and here. You're going to have to kill the vehicle and let it equalize a few times to get the appropriate Freon level. Some people may disagree, but that's the way that I do it.
They changed the Freon level in 97, I think.
Yeah, 97 they reduced the Freon down to 28 ounces because they had a different, probably a different evaporator core in it, probably smaller. That's why, if you notice, a 93 to 96 AC is colder and gets colder faster. That's because of that. It just has a better AC system. Compressor kick on?
Yeah.
Alright, it's sucking all the Freon in. So after we get it to about 2 1/4 cans, we're going to start measuring from there at about 28 ounces. We're going to try to get that figure of where we want it. You know, I don't do things exactly by the book. I do them by. I was trying to say before, I try not to do things by the book all the time. Do things the way that I want by experience, and you know, add my little tweaks to them, whatever you want to call it. As you can see, the Freon line's frozen up right now. So what I'm doing is I kill the engine and let the system equalize. Let the Freon equalize in the system, and let this line kind of thaw out a bit in between adding cans. I don't try to add all 3 at one time or all 2.5 at one time. Another thing I do is sometimes I will drop an ounce of Freon out of a vehicle. Since I live in the south where it's really hot, I find that an ounce lower on Freon will give you a colder idle. In other words, your car does better at an idle with a little bit less Freon. Not a significant amount, just a little bit less. Because the lower this pressure drops while it's idling, the colder your AC gets. You want to try to keep it in the green area. But if it idles around 30, or between 30 and 34, if it's idling right there, you got a pretty cold AC at an idle. Now I've brought ACs down -5, -10 degrees with a digital laser thermometer. So we'll see what we can get this car down to on a 70-degree day. Now it's not hot outside, it's not 90 degrees or 100 degrees outside, but on a 70-degree day we'll see what we can get it down to, and we'll film it for you. Okay, let's start it back up and let it take more Freon. We've got a TXV valve. Is that what you changed before? It was a pain in the ass.
TXV valve was a definite pain in the ass.
That's the one behind the dash, right?
That's the one behind the radio.
Right. So we pulled the glove compartment out and we changed the TXV valve. That's something we don't want to freeze as we're putting this in. The TXV valve is better known as a metering valve or whatnot.
Sometimes it's a meter and block on a Ford.
Yeah, it's basically a small orifice that allows the Freon to condense itself to make everything cold. That's a general description of what that metering valve does. Also regulates it on a hot day, opens and closes. And if you freeze that valve several times by shocking it, by trying to dump Freon in real fast, or even letting it bleed out too fast, sometimes you can cause that valve to stick. And if you cause that TXV or metering valve to stick, you got a serious freaking problem. You gotta either, you know, I have been unsuccessful at unsticking them. I mean, I've tried to put pressure back through the high side and unfree the valve, you know, unstick the valve. I could never do it.
So I know some people can, I can't. I mean, I haven't yet. If I ever do, I'll film it and show you how I did it. But like I was saying, 3 ounces of Freon from 96 down to 94 to 96 for those few years. 28 ounces from 96 up.
97.
I'm sorry, from 97 and up for your vehicle, depending on which vehicle you got, and then the rest is up to you to figure out if you want to go and work out. We didn't add any oil to this compressor because we didn't lose any. Not any that matters. Got pretty much almost the whole can. And our line's still freezing up on us. Showing no pressure on this cheap gauge. So this time I'm just going to go inside and kick the AC. Alright, it's taking more in.
Compressor still running?
Yeah, you can hear it bogging down a bit. Got about 5 pounds. Alright, can's getting to an empty point. Freezing up again, so I'm going to go shut off the compressor. I'll leave the engine running. You can pause it.
Alright.
You know it's filming up. We ain't got shit yet.
Well, I got it filming right now just for reference.
Yeah, we don't have nothing yet because we don't have enough Freon, and I don't even have it on yet. Now the AC compressor's back on.
Center vents and colds in this Camry.
Well, it doesn't matter. You just need a reference point. So I guess reference point, we got to hold at a certain distance. We got to keep that reference point. So what do you want to use as a reference point?
Probably about a half a foot in front of the front vents.
So about from my arm length inside the vent. How about inside?
Perfect.
Or no, you know what? Right here on the vent control clasp, the little vent control.
Drop.
Oh, why am I in Fahrenheit?
That's regular. Celsius is international.
Oh, that's right. We're not in Europe.
That's the only thing that we held on to that's not measured.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Okay, so we're at 72 degrees.
72.5.
That's hilarious. Okay. So let's put some more Freon on this car. Alright, so we got this can in. Just about all of it. Suck some more Freon down faster by bringing the pressure down. Sometimes these cheap valves get stuck. Alright, so we got a lot of Freon in here now.
Alright, so this is our third can.
So a third can, we're going to put a half can in, estimated half can. Since we lost a little Freon here or there, and I'm sure the factory who makes this shit probably cheats us out of a, you know, fraction of an ounce.
Something like that.
Plus I lose a little bit in between changing cans. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add, instead of a quarter of this can, what I think is half of this can. we're going to go from there. We're going to kill the engine, let the system equalize. I have to do this by weight. So I think we're about halfway can.
Hey, look, it's not stuck. All of a sudden, it's got pressure in the system.
We got about 2.5 cans in it, roughly. Okay, give or take an ounce. So we got about 30, anywhere from 29 to 31 ounces in it. I'm going to take a guess and say probably 30 on the money. And what we're going to do is we're going to wait for a little while. We're going to kill it. We're going to let the system equalize. We're going to try it again. And we're going to take a thermometer reading. Let's take it down. Let's take it before we let it equalize and after. And what I said, we had a reference point about yay far.
Hand distance aiming on the center. Right there. Yeah, rapid trap. 25. 22.
It's pretty freaking cold. Now I'm moving around a lot, so but I'm staying relatively on point here. So where are we at? Negative. We've hit negative.
Negative 6.5.
Negative 10. You could store meat in here. Negative 18. Shit, man. We let this thing equalize, right?
Yeah.
But this system's pretty cold on a hot summer day. I mean, it beats, with no tinted windows, it beats all the ACs I've sat in.
This is the coldest car AC I've ever felt before.
It is, because it's probably the experiment years where the factory
Oversized the evaporator core.
Yes, they overcompensated when they were switching to 134 from R12, so they just made huge evaporator cores. And that's the reason why the system's so damn cold. Now you get something from 97 and up, it's probably, you know, you can get it pretty cold, but it's probably nowhere near
As cold as this.
between these two, you know, from 94 to 96 experiment years, you know. Yeah, dude, that's freaking cold. Okay. Alright, we've had the car off now for 10 minutes. System's been equalizing. We can't check the actual gauge right now. We can, but we're not going to, because we're going to wait until a hot summer day to do it. You always want to do this on a hot summer day. You don't want to do it when it's getting dark outside. You want to do it around midday or in the hottest part of the day, preferably in the hottest part of the summer, to get an accurate reading on your gauge, and get a better gauge than what I showed you. But it'll work for what you need to do. But anyway, so we're going to start the car up with about 30 ounces, give or take an ounce of Freon, and we're going to see where we are at. Let's turn the system, I don't know which is, I think that's off.
Yeah.
Alright, vents on, full blast. Car is running. It's on recirc. It's blowing out the vent.
Compressor's off.
Compressor's off. I'm going to start testing it. Okay, we're 61 degrees. It's about 74 outside right now, 75. So we're about at hand distance. We're going to keep it about right there. We're going to turn the AC on and see what we get and how fast it takes. Okay, we're dropping rapidly.
degrees. 44. So to keep this thing steady. 35 degrees. 32. The doors are closed on the car. The difference before was we had the door open. It's not a big deal. Okay, now the compressor's really kicking ass. Film the RPMs.
We're at about 800 right now.
Yeah, that's off always by 100. This way. Still dropping. Still going off my reference point. Temperature's dropping. Rising and dropping. That's because I'm moving around a little bit. It's no big deal.
You think it's going off of your hand heating your body?
It's possible. Let me remove my hand.
It's sensitive.
Yeah, that's why it's always hard to use these inside of a vehicle. You have to set like a reference point. The only thing these are good for is about an average.
Should I rev it up?
Oh no, if you rev it up, it'll get colder. Like I said, it'll drop the pressure on the low side, and it'll get colder. I would guesstimate right now for this temperature outside, we have a little too much Freon in here. It's just my guesstimation.
Think so? That's
Yeah.
why it was colder before?
Yes, we have about 31 ounces of Freon in here, probably, from all my bullshit backyard experience. Give it a little bit of gas and see if the temperature drops.
Alright.
Hold it up to about 1500. Now remember, compressor's working harder. Temperature's dropping. Oh yeah. We have too much Freon in here.
Just got much colder.
Yeah, because we have too much Freon. That's what happens when you have too much Freon. It's not as good at an idle. When your RPM goes up, it'll freeze you out of the car.
2000.
Keep it at 2000. It won't hurt this engine at all. Don't go any higher than that. Back down. There you go. Did you let off?
Tiny's good.
Where you at? 1500?
1600. 1900.
Give it a little more gas.
181.
Temperature's changing fast because I'm moving around. Alright, let off.
Now it came back down at an idle.
Right, so it's starting to equalize. I'm all over the place with this thermometer. I mean, this
Infrared thermometer. Yeah, the air just got a little tiny, it's a bit warmer. I can feel it.
yeah. It's going to do that the first couple of times. It's going to be all over the place. But eventually it'll equalize and it'll stabilize.
How long do we give it?